Okay, so here we are with the the Eurostep edition of the Two Cloud Crowd. It's nice to be with you guys. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Magnus Faneland, responsible for the cloud operations of ShareSpace. The ShareSpace is the platform that Eurostep offers, the PLM platform. And together with me is
Yes. Hi, my name is Matthias Gustafsson. So I work for Magnus as the solution architect for our software as a service solution, the ShareSpace Cloud.
Fantastic. Well, I've already learned quite a bit about it from you guys and from Håkan, and I'm excited to learn more today. Can you guys just briefly tell us about ShareSpace? So what use case it's designed for and so forth?
Yeah, ShareSpace is designed for PLM collaboration. Originally, we've been working with customers now for over 20 years with the ShareSpace platform. And it has always been about design, manufacturing, in-service collaboration. But recently, a couple of years ago, we decided to go for a full cloud offering as well. And then we started out in the manufacturing space. So that's where we've focused with what we call design to manufacturing.
So did you have a like an on-premises platform before, and you decided to put this on the cloud? What was the motivation to go to the cloud? Was it driven by the customers? Was it driven more economically? It was better for Eurostep? I mean, what kind of things that help you push you in that direction?
Well, a bit of both, I would say. We wanted to broaden our scope. We thought that ShareSpace was, since it was originally designed as a collaboration platform, and we started out with it, hosting it, using external hosting services, the pure cloud offering or SaaS offering seemed a perfect fit for us. But it's also offered as an on-premise.
Right. And so it's the identical solution, whether it's a managed service, a SaaS solution, or on-premise, it's always the same software, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My understanding is that what's unique about ShareSpace is the way that you can enable collaboration, but on all the way down to, well, you can basically enable a matrix of security for each of the participants in the collaboration process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the platform is based on an information standard called PLCS. It's an ISO standard. And we've put layers on top of that to simplify the configuration of the platform, the way it's presented to the users. But still, everything is kept into the standards-based information model, and that's where we keep the security. So, as you said, keeping the security down to the detail level, that's one of the key features of ShareSpace, I would say.
And so what other arguments do you use to help customers get over their initial fear about secure data in the cloud, because of course people are worried that they're going to be hacked, or so what kind of reasoning do you use with those customers that are scared about putting their trusting their IP with ShareSpace in a cloud situation rather than on premises?
I'd say we've struggled with that for the last 5 years at least, but it's starting to shift. Obviously, with our defense customers that we have, it's a tougher sale. Mm-hmm. But for normal industry or civil industry and with a cloud offering, when we approach smaller companies, it's easier, I would say. They are more used to that, to using Office tools, to use CRM tools online. So why not use PLM, or at least PLM collaboration tool? Because the alternative is to use a Dropbox or email or something like that.
And then you don't get the traceability. Then you lose the traceability, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because you mentioned smaller customers. On the episode 3 of the Two Cloud Crowd webinar, I talked about one example you gave me, which was Weibo, making these robots for cleaning the pool. So would you
Mhm.
mind explaining a little bit about that? Maybe you could explain what how is ShareSpace uniquely qualified to help in that particular instance, and why, in particular, the cloud aspect of it was particularly interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, Veda is a really small company, but they produce these pool cleaning robots, or it could also be for water basins and bigger pools, so to speak. Um, they were using just ERP. They didn't even have a PLM system. So ShareSpace, as this cloud offering, came as a solution for them to structure parts, component, but of course also all the suppliers.
Mm,
So having a tool that could gather all the suppliers and the communication with the suppliers was what they were looking for. And being a small company is just one or two persons doing all this stuff. Uh, they saw it as having a cloud tool was basically the only option, because they don't have IT themselves. They
right.
can't afford purchasing of hardware. So that's of course the cost uh, was a big reason why ShareSpace was a good tool for them.
So I haven't heard from your colleague too much. As a solution architect, how has it changed your the way you look at architecture when you're looking at the cloud and putting ShareSpace on the cloud versus the traditional on-premises approach?
I think that the real big difference that we see is because we based our cloud solution on using Microsoft Azure, and Azure provides a lot of platform as a service solutions that we can use. So there's a lot of things that we don't need to build ourselves. We can
Right.
leverage what they have in their offering, which makes us being very rapid in our development cycles, and we can quickly deploy out new features, or if there are bug fixes and things, we can rapidly test it and deploy it out and have it available to all of our customers. So that's very different from a more traditional on-prem way, where often many things are way more manual. It doesn't have to be, of course, but it often becomes that. But with
So
the cloud, we can automate pretty much all of our processes for deployment and testing.
so if I rephrase it, it sounds like the move towards the cloud, which was beneficial to customers because it made it easier for them to use the software because they didn't have to install anything, also was a transformation for Eurostep because you were using maybe waterfall or other older development techniques, and now it sounds like you're using DevOps and CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment techniques in order to keep your software up to date. That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and that's something that really has improved our way of working, but also it's also put requirements on our platform that are also beneficial for our on-prem customers as well, because the ShareSpace platform now has a much more modern architecture, and the way you extend ShareSpace and building components on top of it. It's very much more loosely coupled, which means you can maintain certain modules and features as independent components, which again makes life easier for us in designing and developing it, and
That
also
sounds
deployment.
that sounds great. So in fact, it helps everybody because it helped you guys as a company in terms of your software, but it also helps the customers because even the on-prem customers get the benefit of some of the stuff. Um, That made me think about something else, which is, it sounds like it also made you rethink the way you interact with users, the way that your user interface works, right? I mean, when you go to the cloud, you've got to have a self-service portal. You can't be on a command line. So was that also another big deal? Is that you had to rethink the way the user experience of using ShareSpace?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have when we started the whole what we call the cloud initiative, started building the software as a service version of ShareSpace. We of course started looking into well, we needed a portal where you could go buy ShareSpace, of course. That was something new that we needed to develop, and then integrate that with the rest of the deployment of the platform. We also invested in online training material, e-learning systems where with maybe a higher level of description of what the prepackaged solution is doing in the cloud compared to our platform, which is more, you could do a lot with ShareSpace, but with the cloud, we focused in on certain processes instead. We've also invested in onboarding tools for guiding a user using the ShareSpace user interface with an onboarding system that can then give tips and tricks to our end users.
And you did that in-house, or you used a partner for the training piece?
We used a partner for the training. So it's a company from Spain called Share PLM.
I knew you guys were going to talk about Helena and Miriam. Fantastic. They're great, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah, and then for the onboarding, we used a tool called WalkMe, which they have a software as a service component, the WalkMe, that we could just use on top of our ShareSpace user interface. So we didn't need to build anything ourselves for it. We could just layer that on.
It makes me think of it as something else, because another thing I mentioned on the webcast was a hybrid cloud, right? Because I think you guys would agree, particularly in the defense, you're never going to see the entire industry move to the cloud. There's always going to be a necessity to have something on-prem. Even companies that want to explore the cloud, if someday it doesn't work, they need to bring it back, right? So how does ShareSpace enable that? In other words, my understanding is that ShareSpace is there for a limited time for collaborating on a certain product, and then the people go back into their own PLM system, right? So how does that work for ShareSpace? In other words, how easy is it to collaborate and then and to connect between different clouds? And anyway, I don't want to push the question too hard.
First of all, our main focus is the collaboration around the data. So the data or the information is the primary focus for us. And ShareSpace has always been about capturing and what we call consolidating data from different sources in order to make up a full set of information that you can then easily share and your partner or coworker can understand. But of course, the technical aspects of that, and I'll leave that to Matthias, but obviously in cloud, there's other challenges with that. So having an on-prem, it's easier to integrate to other systems technically, while in the cloud, we have to rely on technologies that you would find. And
yeah, at the same time though, it all depends on the use case as well. Like since our software as a service offering is online, then you can still push and pull data from an internal system as long as you have internet access. So you're still secure in that way. Of course, if it comes to ShareSpace having to talk directly to an internal system, then of course we need to set up other mechanisms.
A VPN.
Yeah, like a VPN. So there's nothing really technically stopping us from doing that either. It's not something that we have now in the cloud offering. I think it's more a tailored thing. And then of course in-house IT needs to be involved much more if you want to go set up VPN connections and things like that.
But the complex type of imports and exports and all of that with the big payloads, that's what we've been doing for 20 years. So ShareSpace is quite good at that. So it's more about doing the technical connection. Then we can transfer the payloads, and ShareSpace can handle that and import it and consolidate with what we have. So that type of the information integration is already there because it's in the platform, but the technical aspects is manageable. We see also with the cloud.
But if the payloads are rather large, how do you work around the issues of latency and bandwidth, which are another concern of people in general with the cloud as well? It's on the network, so if the network's gone, I can't work anymore. How does ShareSpace deal with that in terms of larger payloads that you've got to move between the cloud and another cloud or on-prem or whatever?
Of course, we can't do magic in that. We use the technology that's available to us. In Azure has quite a lot of different things, Azure services, but mainly the collaboration that we see with ShareSpace is a asynchronous collaboration. It's not where you sit in the same CAD environment and look at the same 3D model. It's more of a change management, all of the asynchronous, maybe boring, but still very important administrative collaboration, I would say. So it doesn't affect us in that particular sense that we have to be in two sites in different worlds and look at the same 3D model. But of course, if you have a huge payload with a lot of 3D data, there could be latency. And then we have to deal with it with replication and all of that.
Right, but you could use probably some of the data facilities of Azure to do that, right? I mean, they do have a good
So far,
storage system and stuff.
we haven't really seen the needs as of today for that. But then also knowing that if that need would ever come up, then as you said, Azure provides a lot of services for managing exactly that. And with our then being able to do rapid development and things like that, we could quite quickly start coming up with solutions for that problem as well, if need be.
So I was just curious because I know that you guys in your name is STEP, right? And STEP is of course a neutral format, you know, an ISO standard and so forth. At what point do you stop using the native CAD and you're using STEP? Are you trying to use you know, I'm not incredibly familiar, so I'm not going to quote which standard of STEP it's going to be. It's 21 or whatever, but you know, how far can a customer get until they need to go to a neutral standard, and how much data are they going to lose when they go to the neutral standard as opposed to the, you know, their native CAD?
Basically, we don't force them to go to STEP at all. So you can continue with native CAD if you want to.
But if you've got NX and Creo and CATIA at one point, you need a common standard, right? If you're collaborating on the same thing, but your engineers are using different products, that's kind of the question I've got.
What we use the STEP for, and that's the basis for our information model. So we use the STEP standard for that. But it's more on the PLM or PDM type
Okay, more on the change management, the project management, less on the actual product structure.
It will of course be in step geometry as well, but if you want to use native CAD, that's fine. So you can continue to using that, and then we can convert it to a 3D lightweight format for viewing, but you can still keep the native CAD and share that if you need to. Absolutely. So that's not hindering you from.
Right. And so what are some of the basic services that ShareSpace offers as a platform? I understand that there's collaboration, that there's a file sharing, that there's change management and version control. But what are some of the other features that you offer to customers that are really advantageous on ShareSpace, as opposed to, you know, using 3D Experience's supply chain module or the same thing from PTC or RAS or whoever? What is the key advantage there for ShareSpace?
Features, Matthias?
I think one big advantage is the way we can, if we look at ShareSpace as a platform, the richness of the information set is that we can represent the kind of the digital thread and cover a large scope of the life cycle of products. And then, as Magnus mentioned earlier, our core model is based on the standards, but we've also built the security layers, because the standard itself doesn't talk about security and access to this information. It's just talking about information. But with ShareSpace, we have this very powerful and secure security engine on top of that information set, which give you control on a very fine granular level of who should have access to this piece of information and who should have access to larger sets of that information. So I would say the security bit is maybe one of our real core features.
And this is done in a manner that doesn't hinder performance. You know, that doesn't. The more rules you add, you're not slowing the system down. It's still really easy to use and really responsive as you're using it.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and then that's something that we've been working on now for soon. 20 years of just improving the performance of a system of this complexity and with this type of security engine. Another important feature is, of course, what we call our consolidation engine. So Often we bring in data. Often there is correlation with the data from different sources. So there is some kind of overlap so that we can build this thread of information. And we have a very powerful and configurable engine that you can describe them. Okay, what happens when you have a collision? You of course don't want to create duplicates of things. Instead, you want to start tying things together, link it together. And with the configuration there, we can really control what will happen and should you stop the file from coming in? Is it corrupted data or is it good data? And what should happen with that? So,
And this is all done with a low code, rather, I'm not having to write Java or C++, it's a low code kind of system.
yes,
Oh,
exactly.
great. That's a big trend, isn't it, in PLM today, is the low code, because of the nightmares of, well, in fact, that makes me think of the problem of upgrades. You said you're already in a CI/CD kind of framework, so the nightmare of making a customization and then it breaking in an upgrade, that's a thing of the past now, I suppose, correct?
Yes, yes, I would say so. And also if we look at the ShareSpace platform such, as I mentioned earlier, we're really moved to this loosely coupled components, and all communication you do with the ShareSpace platform is via REST APIs. And as long as those contracts are fixed, you can keep upgrading the ShareSpace platform and don't have to deal with upgrading any dependencies in your extensions or what have you, because you have a clear interface between.
So you mentioned the great industry buzzword digital thread. So for in the share space platform, does that go from creation to engineering to manufacturing, including after sales service, or how far does the digital thread extend in the share space platform? I mean, is it EBOM and MBOM and SBOM and everything else, or is it really more focused on the EBOM?
We, we say that we have it all, basically from concept to and simulation all
From
the way.
cradle to grave,
Yeah.
so to
And
speak.
the reason for us saying that and hopefully being trustworthy is that we based our entire platform on this PLCS standard. So the information capturing is there already. The rest is just adding concepts of doing collaboration, doing versioning, doing change management, and it applies the same way for all the information objects that are already defined in this standard, basically. So I usually talk to them as horizontal links when I picture the digital threads in between all these booms that you
Right.
yeah.
Just connecting all the silos essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. And all those horizontal links are already there in the information standard. It's been thought about. This standard was released in 2004, I think. And since then, we've had that in our platform. But to be honest, there's very few customers out there that actually requires the complete digital thread. Even though we have the capabilities, you usually focus in on one or two silos and try to connect those because it's hard enough, basically.
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly not easy.
So
Um,
that's hard in my customer cases, I would say.
right. So if I've got a PLM system, it's at the point where I'm trying to outsource design or outsource manufacturing that I'm going to find Eurostep share space particularly interesting, right?
Yeah, I would say that. And we've not gone in as I mean, there's PLM capabilities, but our target is to find cases where there's collaboration with partners, with other companies, and that's where ShareSpace fits very well because we have this capability of consolidating information from different.
Right, and so it's not a rip and replace. It's just you latch this on, and without changing anything, you enable the collaboration, and then when it's over, you put it to the side and then turn it on again when you need to collaborate again. Well, it's a very SaaS model, right? You use it when you need it, and that's great. So, what before we wrap up, I mean, what kind of futures, what kinds of things can we expect coming soon from ShareSpace? What kinds of things are you guys working on that are going to get the customers really excited about?
Wow, top secret stuff, right?
Yeah. You tell me not to kill me, but I mean, just in general, what direction are you guys looking at? Is it just more on making features available quicker, or on security features? I mean, what's the focus at the moment?
Well, if we just talk about the cloud offering, we're continuing to add to what we call the design to manufacturing offering. So there's more features coming, or more processes that we support towards that. And then in the platform, it's all about, well, there's a lot of stuff going on, of course, but there are deployments, there are security things that we are adding to it. We have, apart from this design to manufacturing, also offering a export control
Oh,
ITAR
great.
version. Uh, that's more tougher to do a general cloud offering,
Yes, of course.
still using the same type of deployment and capabilities, of course. So there's security stuff coming in that one as well. And
And this is good in both the engineer to order case and the more general manufacturing case. Both cases are.
mm. So that's coming both in the defense area, where it's more down to licensing of each person that should be able to see stuff, but also the general, as you say, general offering and dual use cases, where it's slightly more company to company licensing.
Oh, that's fantastic. I appreciate your time today. Anything, last word for our viewers today about Eurostep and about ShareSpace?
Please come and visit sharespace.com or eurostep.com. There are two websites. So one is the product, one is the company. There you can read more, of course. And we're happy to be part of this. Thanks, Fino, for inviting us.
Yes,
You're
thank you.
welcome. And thanks you guys. It was fantastic. I'll talk to you soon.